All right, welcome back. So this is not exactly going to be a full power rankings video. This is kind of just going to be like a little bit of a check-in on what the list looks like right now, now that the Chinese teams have started playing Dota, because of course they were not included in my last list as they had not started playing their upper division matches yet. So I wanted to make this video because of course if I had waited until next week to make my power rankings video, which is still going to be going up, it would have been a lot more hectic, not only including all 8 Chinese teams, but also having to account for a week's and a half's worth of other regions playing Dota as well. So this is going to be kind of a mini update video, not a lot of movement because again, not a lot of teams have played all that much, but there was some movement for some teams and of course slotting in the Chinese teams. So yeah, starting off with our list, I'm just going to be basically putting every single team on the board right now. As you can see, teams can end up being a lot lower here because of course the lowest last week was at number 40, now it's 48. In general, a lot of teams kind of staying where they are. For the Chinese teams at the bottom, we have Phoenix coming in at number 41. They had a pretty rough week. They lost both of their series. LBCS at 37. We then have eHome at 29. And right ahead of them, we have Vici Gaming at 27. We have Aster at 24, who notably did lose their series, but they looked pretty impressive in it, and they should end up being still one of the best teams. I'm not entirely basing this off of how well they should be playing. If they aren't going to put up good results in the next few days, then they definitely will see them dropping down the list, but for now I thought they looked pretty okay in their series against PSG.LGD, who looked very solid all of last year pretty much and are still looking like one of the best teams. We have Invictus Gaming at 18. Same kind of thing, they lose their series, but they looked really solid in that series, and they probably should have won. If you haven't seen game 3 of that series, definitely recommend checking it out. It was a fantastic game. And next up we have RNG, who is the team that beat Invictus in that series. They are at number 11 so far. I was super impressed with what I saw from them, and I'm really excited to see more. And then PSG.LGD at number 8. So again, you know, the lowest that a Chinese team is right now is 41. The highest one is 8. I'm not really comfortable moving them up any further or lower than that at the moment, just because we have not seen nearly as many matches from them. I said the same thing about T1 in my last power rankings video, because T1 had only played 2 series, whereas most teams had played around 4, and I had them at my number 6. Which now leads me into some of the teams that have had movement in the past few days. How I do these lists is I update it every single day. I try and watch as many games live as possible. If I'm not able to catch a game live, I watch replays of it. And then at the end of the day, I do make my updates to it. So this board is getting updated every single week. You guys only get to see it once a week on Friday. You guys basically get to see what it looks like at the same time every week. And how I'm going to be doing it is Thursday is going to be my cutoff day. At the end of Thursday, that is going to be my list. I make the list on Friday, and then I keep editing it as the week goes on, and I do the same thing for the next week. So of course, there are matches on Friday, but those matches will not be included in this list. So, for some teams that have some notable big movements, SMG moves into the top row, almost to the top 5. They are now sitting at 6th place. I was really impressed with them. Even in the series that they lost so far, they looked like they were competitive. It was against some of the best teams in the region. They beat Execration, who has been doing quite well, and all around really impressed with them. As for another team in the region who takes a pretty big dip as well, we have T1 dropping out of the top row. They go from 6th place down to 10th. I thought overall that loss to OB Neon was pretty rough. They looked really good in game 1, but I think they maybe got a little bit too overconfident and the series slipped away from them. And all around, it was a pretty rough go for T1. And again, because they haven't played as many series, that one loss definitely has a pretty big impact on the record. Now, I don't drop them down too much. I know that OB Neon is near the bottom of the list, but I don't want to make these power rankings entirely reactionary. If they start losing more and more, that's when we'll start seeing more movement from them. But until then, having them in the top 10, I think is pretty reasonable. But speaking of the team that beat them, OB Neon, they do stay at 33rd, but given now that there are 8 additional teams in this list, I think that's pretty solid. They were in the bottom row before, now they are in the second last row, almost up into the middle 2 rows. They looked really good again in that series against T1. Now, whether or not that was because T1 wasn't taking it too seriously or not, I know a lot of people were maybe a little bit upset with how low OB Neon was on my list last week, talking about some outside tournaments and stuff. And I'm well aware that some teams can do very well in outside tournaments, but this really is a DPC power rankings, and so I don't want to include too much influence from other tournaments. I talked about it a little bit last week with teams like Tundra and Team Spirit, and maybe why I had them, or specifically Tundra, still rated quite high, even though they weren't having the best season. But regardless, Other than that, not a whole lot of movement, just some minor movements up and down for some teams, including Team Nigma and Alliance. Not a ton of movement from them all in all. They're still pretty close to each other on the power rankings. I think overall Alliance kind of already was where they're going to end up being near the end of the list, so they don't take too much of a drop. And same thing for Nigma. It's a nice series win for them. It might end up guaranteeing them a spot in the upper division for the next tour, but all around, still haven't been too impressed from them. We would need to see them win at least their next two series, their last two series, if they want to make it to the major, which one of those two series is up against the undefeated Team Liquid, who has looked pretty good so far. So yeah, other than that, some movement in the North American region. Arcos drops down to number 42. They drop down to the bottom row. After that loss to Black and Yellow, it just really looked like all of the momentum that they had in that first game at the start of it kind of got sucked away a little bit. So Black and Yellow moves up a little bit, but all in all, I think Black and Yellow, same thing as with Nigma and Alliance, I think they're kind of already in the place where they will end up being at the end of the season on this power rankings. So I moved them up a little bit, but you know, it's just one series win so far from them. I would need to see a little bit more. So yeah, again, this is just a little bit of a different video because I'm going to be including the Chinese teams in this. I thought I would give you guys an update before we get into next week's video, which is going to be pretty hectic. It's going to include the next week of DPC Dota, including the Beast Coast series that is going on Thursday night, which is when I'm recording this. I have not included the results from that Beast Coast series in this list yet. Assuming they win that, though, Beast Coast should be moving up the list quite a bit. They're sitting at number 13 right now, which I think is pretty damn solid. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry that there was no upload yesterday, but I'm going to be getting back to my review series starting this weekend, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.